You're listening to She's the Business podcast.
Have you ever tried to follow a simple step-by-step process that an expert or a guru, somebody really successful, has put out there and just thought, well, that's great, but it's not working for me the same way? Well, this might be not simply because of the steps. It's not that they've got that method wrong or that it doesn't work or that they're trying to pull wool over your eyes at all. I'm sure it does work really, really well for them. However, have you considered that it could be your energy, what it is that you're here to do, and what aligns with you best, the way that you work your best, is not a match for their method or their system. And so trying to use it, of course, it's not going to work out the same way for you as it does for them. We're getting into a really deep discussion all about the energetics of business, how you find out what your soul design is, and the difference between the masculine and feminine energy that we all possess in different quantities, and how to figure out really what is your leading source of energy, where it is that you derive the best energetic connection with, and how you operate at your highest, all in this episode, which I know that sounds like a lot to cover, and it is, but you're going to absolutely love it. So hang around for this one. It's coming right up.
Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Osborne, and in my 23 years of business and marketing, I've built many brands to become multi-billion-dollar companies. And just in the last 10 years, I've built 2 online businesses of my own from my dining room table with 2 little babies running around at my feet. I've made it my mission to inspire you to get out of your own way and become the successful business owner who's living the lifestyle you really desire without all the hustle. This is She's the Business podcast, made by women for women. This is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration.
My very special guest joining me today is Eugenia Oganova. She's a business strategist, a personal transformation expert, and quantum messaging energetics coach. She's got over 20 years experience. She's a self-made millionaire, a best-selling author of 3 books, and she's been featured in well over 100 networks and publications. She specializes in helping conscious leaders and spiritual coaches create consistent 10K plus months and sustainably scale past 6 figures without forcing themselves to work harder, by weaving masculine business strategy to feminine quantum energetics and customizing with their unique soul design and mission. She's not a typical business coach. She's a clairvoyant, and she uses her extraordinary abilities to support her clients in addition to the solid business strategies. And we're about to dive right into that topic about the masculine business strategy and the feminine quantum energetics, and learn what the difference is between the two, why we need to know the difference, and how we can leverage this knowledge, now that we know it, in our own business. So without further ado, let me play this interview for you. Awesome. And here I am today with the lovely Eugenia Oganova. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. I really can't wait to get into this discussion because I know very little about feminine quantum energetics, and the whole masculine feminine conversation, I think, is so interesting to me, at least. So I'm hoping as well we're going to bring some new insights to our audience. So welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Jessica, for having me. I'm very excited to be here and chat with you.
Yeah. And could you give us a little bit of background as to exactly what you do and who you serve in your business, and maybe even tell us a little bit about how you got into this, because it is, for me at least, quite unusual to meet somebody like you. So I'd love to know a bit more.
Oh, absolutely. And I kind of do everything backwards in my life. So this is also one of those stories where everything was backwards. I was born clairvoyant, so I could see timelines, possibilities, energies. And at the same time, I'm a very grounded, practical person. So that kind of means I sort of like never fit in. And I also saw other things that I could see how people were getting stuck in things that to me me were very obvious, but to them, they were not. So I started working with clients when I was 14 years old. So I had full practice. Yeah, I had lots of clients, and I was doing my work in helping people figure out their life purpose, figure out what they meant to do, figure out how they meant to do it, what is a natural way for them. And because I am so different myself, I'm also neurodivergent, so my brain is wired differently. I had to learn how to translate a lot of the multidimensional things I get into something that made sense to people. And I got good at this over the years, of course, but I also figured out that I end up helping specifically with attracting wealth, and wealth not just in a sense like literally money, but wealth of personal understanding, or wealth of like abundance in experiences and well-being and all these things, including money. And a lot of my clients happen to be people who had their own businesses. So before long, I would get things like, oh, thank you, Eugenia, so much for saying this. Like, I was able to sell this thing, no problem. Or, wow, this thing you said, I modified my messaging and now this amazing thing happened. And I'm like, wow, that's what I'm doing. Like, I didn't know that's what I was doing. But what I was doing is I was reading their soul design, their natural energy, and then telling them which are the pathways that I see that are the most beneficial for them to put emphasis on in order to bring in what they desire to bring in, versus other areas that they might be also good at, but not the things to focus on necessarily. And also what are the things that are in a way and how to clean them up. So over the years, that's how I kind of mutated into doing my work at the higher planes, while at the same time at the very practical material level. And I had businesses like since I was 14. So, I mean, I've always been successful. I've always made money because I utilize my design. So I look at other people, and especially conscious, amazing women who are so capable and so talented and have clients and get great results. And their clients are like practically writing them love notes. And yet they don't seem to figure out how to generate income doing it. And it's like that to me was always a disconnect, because I got that linked in my system, and I'm looking at somebody who's awesome, and yet she's generating, let's say, 30,000 a year or 50,000 a year doing this thing. And I'm like, why not 100,000? Why not 200? Why not even more? And then let's buy part of Amazon forest and, help it not be deforested, or invest money in cleaning the ocean. Like, it's not all for us. It's all wealth that is alive, that flows through the community. Like women, we don't want to buy gold-plated airplanes. We want to actually like do something that supports community. So I've always been very passionate about helping women actually generate income doing this amazing something that they want to do, that they feel so passionate about and they're really good at. And that's kind of how it came into being. So I am a transcension mentor because I teach this higher consciousness piece with wealth energetics and everything, but in application to business. So I'm a business strategist and a marketing energetics coach, which is, I know you and I will talk about the quantum marketing part, but all these pieces together, that's, if we're looking sort of like, what is it for? It's for you being able to know what is your unique way, how you meant to make your own decisions, and which pathway is sort of like your pathway to invest your energy into, that is meant to bring to you the wealth from people, from opportunities, from clients, from money itself, from connections, from well-being, and all these things together.
Wow, there is a lot in that. I want to unpack a few things, because as you were talking, questions came up and I'm super interested. I know we're going to talk today about the difference between the masculine sort of business strategy and how that approaches, and then the feminine energy and the energetic approach. And I'm not sure whether you want to start there or go into this question, because what you said was, you're looking at somebody and seeing their energy, which, to me sounded very individual. You might look at me and be thinking, well, this is your energy, but you're trying to do it over here in a different way. And that's why it's hard. That's why it's not working. And helping somebody to really find what is the right energetic match for them in their design. Is that right? Have I understood correctly that was what you're meaning?
Yeah, you're actually very correct. And this is sort of the axiom by which I live, is that every human being is one-time unique cosmic event. So there are patterns, there are certain similarities, there are definitely patterns, and that's one of my superpowers. I see patterns that people don't see, and because of it, I can connect the dots that to you might seem unconnectable, but I can like totally see the line. So there are patterns, there are certain similarities, but within that, there are infinite number of combinations. So each individual being is kind of a unique event in themselves. Because of that, when I look at somebody, like if you're kind of asking, like, what do I see? I see, first of all, just kind of generic pattern, like, oh, this person is of this type generally. Like first is electric energy or magnetic energy prevalent, basic thing. So this is like more masculine or more feminine. Then within that, okay, what kind of a type within that? What are patterns within that? And then further and further. And this is how we open up and unlock somebody's soul design, as in what is it that they brought here. I kind of always joke is like you come into a lifetime with 2 suitcases. One suitcase has all your goodies, like all amazing gifts and awesome things you meant to, bring to the world and the gifts for the world. And another one's got all your crap, like all the karmic stuff, all the issues, all the unfinished lessons. So we don't get to just have the good suitcase. We have both. And a lot of times, in quotes, bad suitcase is not actually bad, because that's the part where a lot of things taken out of that become what we then can teach in this world. So when I look at somebody, I see these unique patterns that are within more kind of a traditional patterns, I guess you can say. And these minute details determine where individual emphasis goes. This is the same thing that you can say the main reason why not all business strategies work for everybody. There's so many women that come to me saying like, oh, Eugenia, I have tried this thing. I've taken this course. Everybody got results. I didn't. And I was so diligent and I did everything. Why? What's wrong with me? Am I not meant to do it? And it's like, there's nothing wrong with you. You totally meant to do it. But this thing, what if we like adjust a little here, a little here, a little here to make it match your design? Suddenly it all works. And she's like, oh my God, it's so easy. Like it feels easy. And that's kind of the main thing as far as customizing is that when you treat yourself as an individual, you are then able to align everything towards how you meant to do it. It doesn't mean that it's all easy, but there is flow. There's momentum. It's easier because you're not pushing against something that somebody else gave you as a conditioning or overlay or karmic imprint or whatever that's not yours. Like a lot of times people try to do something, and when we start unraveling it, it's like, oh, where did this pattern come from? Not yours. It's your mother talking, or this is your school teacher talking, or this is your first husband talking. And when we take all of that back into who she really is, now she gets to do her business and still do what she wanted to do, but it feels better. It's like an outfit. You can have clothes that you bought at Target, or you can have clothes that are perfectly tailored for you and fits just incredibly amazing. Yeah. Wouldn't you rather that, right? Because that would feel better and you would feel more special. You would feel more, seen as yourself when something is perfectly tailored to you. That works the same for business. When our business patterns, when our promotional materials, when our marketing, when our launching systems, all of that is matching us like this perfectly tailored outfit. Yeah. Now the clients or potential opportunities or whatever's out there responds because we create energy vortex. So this is the energetic stuff. We create an energy vortex that then magnetizes to us what we want instead of us going after and chasing clients, chasing money. Like all this world is essentially, in a business sense, unfortunately, programming people to do that. Like, how do you get clients? And it's like, you don't get clients, you attract clients. That's a consequence of you being in the right place yourself, not the other way around.
No, totally. You're speaking my language, except it's interesting because I think we're so aligned in what we teach and how we teach it. So often a lot of what, I'm talking about with clients is it's not about asking what's the method, or what's the steps, or how do you get it? How do you get the clients? It's about understanding how it works and what your unique way is and making the decisions that work for you, because that's the way that's going to work for you. It's not picking up someone else's method and then following that, because that's why it doesn't feel right. It's why it's not working as well as it does for them, because that's their method, it's not yours. And it's really interesting because you're adding in this whole level of the energetics, which I'm new to. For me, it was really about, aligning it with your own, we're all different. as a service provider, you're a person with a business, so we're all unique, and the clients that would be the right fit for us aren't the same as someone else's. So why would you expect to pick up someone else's strategy and apply it and have it work the same for you as it does for them? Well, you've got different ingredients going in. And so it's interesting because I kind of explain it that way, and the way you're explaining it is with the energetic and your soul design. But I think we're all coming to the same kind of conclusion. You know, the cookie cutter just doesn't work. That's not what it's about. And yes, the magnetizing clients, 100%. I just so much, and I feel like it's really risen in the last couple of years, especially with COVID and with a lot of people going online. This push, people out there trying to hunt down clients. And I'm just like, just stop, breathe. Like, it feels so, I'm not sure what the word is to me, but it just feels like so much effort and so much angst and all of the energy that to me doesn't feel right when you're in that space of hunting the clients down. Whereas it's really just about being aligned, like you say, to exactly what it is that you're wanting to attract, and knowing what you are to attract them, and then having them come to you. It's hard to explain it, and I love all of the descriptions that you're giving us, because I think it's adding so much more clarity to what that means and why it's so much more powerful to have people come to you, magnetically attract them in, not spend all your time running around chasing.
Right, and you always want to look as to why something occurs. So like I always like to see the meaning of things behind the actions, because people get overly fixated on, I have to do this, like post 5 times a day, or talk to this person, or do this kind of a video, or get myself into this conference as a speaker, or whatever it is, but or get certain number of followers. None of that really matters if you don't know what is the drive. And that drive cannot be from the ego, because most of the time what happens is out of not enoughness. You know, when it's from the ego, it becomes more about, when I be what I think I should be, or do what I think I should do in order to be what I think I should be, then I will have the thing I think I should have in order to feel the way I think I want to.
Yes.
So that's a very much a backwards process. Instead, what I do with my clients is we look at, like, what is the actual drive. Like I'm a transcension mentor, as in I teach you to transcend all this crap and limitation into who you really meant to be. So then from that point, your business is not just about making money. It's not about proving anything. You don't have anything to prove. You're already one-time cosmic event. So then from that place, what is it that you actually want and why? It's in the soul design. It's uncovering the true drive, not the drive based out of negative. Like most people, when you ask them, why do you want something? Their answer would be from the negative, because I don't want to be poor, or because I don't want to be like my mother, or because I don't want to ever like have a lunch that didn't work out like the last time and then I felt bad. Like it's from the negative versus when you start from the positive, usually even one step, like, well, I want, I don't know, 20 clients. Okay, why do you want 20 clients? Well, so that I make this much money. Why do you want to make this much money? So that and then at some point we still get back to not enoughness. So usually what I do is kind of like, okay, let's clean all of that up and let's look at not what you as the ego want, but what you as the soul wants. What is your actual journey here? Because every business must be linked to something bigger, because if it's not about service, it's not going to last. It's not sustainable. So if we're connecting a business to a service, and service in a true way, as in spiritual service to humanity. And I mean, some people will say like, well, I don't know, I just help people like deal with this thing, or I'm a parenting coach, like what service to humanity? And it's like, no, let's look at the bigger picture behind that. And then when we start seeing how it really changes person's life, what they really developing, what are the real transformation that occurs, and what in them cares about it. Like something that they would do even if they were not paid for it, because they just love it, because it matters. Great. Now we got something that's sustainable, because business goes up and down, and you can't go down with the ship every time. So you kind of have to have something that's actually going to carry you over the wave instead of constantly crashing down with the waves when things happen. So when that drive is in the right place, that's where you get that beautiful, sustainable flow, when it feels like you're actually creating energetically the vortex, because now it's not the business that's your project. You are the project. And to me, that is the huge shift, because most people, when they try to do business in quotes, they do it like that's my project. That's where I'm putting all the energy, and then I'm serving it. When actually it's supposed to be the other way around. It's the business that meant to serve you. So in order for that to happen, though, you got to be the priority. So what am I learning? What am I going? How am I serving? It's not selfish to put it this way. It's actually centered on self so that you can create the vortex. That's the energetics part. The vortex is what kind of like in the unseen realms makes you attractive. And I don't mean sexual, but I mean like energetically attracting, magnetizing to you. And for most people, that's where it looks like magic. That's where it's like, okay, this person does this action and they work really hard and they get, let's say, 2 people out of that to sign up. This person does practically nothing, just kind of shows up, does video when she's like in a hoodie in the woods and she's just talking and channeling some amazing thing, 20 people sign up. And they're like, okay, what happened here? Well, that person maybe need to upgrade her marketing and whatever, but the energetics were right. She created a vortex. That's why it works. So yes, marketing matters. Yes, strategies matter. And all of that goes after the energetics, because if the energetics are incorrect, all the rest becomes super hard.
Amazing. And I'm just, as you were talking, thinking, well, that's exactly the answer to why, you know, someone might say, oh, well, I want to start a podcast or I want to write a book. It's like, well, why do you want to do that? Oh, because I see someone else is doing it and they're successful. And so I think that if I just do the things that they're doing, then I'm going to have the same results. And it's like, that's the wrong reason for wanting to do it. Like, what does this feel like the right thing for you? Is it aligned to you? And is it really how you see yourself serving your audience and the world and sharing? Because it's the only way, like you were saying, that's what creates the longevity. Otherwise, it's a project and you're doing the action, but you're just going to get tired of doing it if it's not something that's right for you. So good.
And that actually is linked to the time on the planet Earth. So we are energetically moving from the time of survival by planning into the time of individual creative expression. So what that means on a larger scale is that majority of what we call business has been not only in a man's hands in the masculine energy, but it's also been predictable. It's been orderly. It's been like, do this and then see how somebody else did it, do the same thing, and then it should work for you. And it actually energetically was supported for a very long period of time, centuries. But now energetically, that's breaking apart because we're going into the age of creative self-expression. So now it's all about individuality in your own unique way in order to magnetize something to you. So suddenly people find themselves with repeating strategies and they don't work for them. And it's like, why not? I'm doing everything right. And this is what you and I were just talking about, is that it's not that you're doing something incorrectly in the strategy. And I actually believe that if somebody is like just starting, they should try cookie cutter strategies because they really don't know yet what their own way is. And that's why we have those $27 courses or $100 courses, because that's, I mean, you got to start somewhere. So yes, you kind of learn this basic structure and you apply and you do. So that's like, you have to do that. But when you're actually thinking of like, okay, I want to at least get to 6 figures, you know, and ideally, you know, double that, like, so I actually have a business that I can not have a second job and feel like, okay, this is my life, my business, that's where I'm invested. That's where none of that cookie cutter stuff works anymore.
Yeah. And I think that is so valuable to have that point about trying it. And it's okay to do the cookie cutter when you're starting out, but it's also then to know that they're not all going to be the right thing. So you're going to be trying those things, but also be thinking, I'm going to try them, but they're an experiment. It may not be the right thing for me. So it's okay if it doesn't work. It just means that I need to then move on and experiment with something else in order to learn more about yourself and learn more about what is going to work for you. And I think that can be where us women in particular have that real fear of like things not working. Like, oh,
well, women are so programmed that like if we don't do something right, oh my God, the big shame thing, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Men don't have that. Men just like, okay, tried, didn't work out. Okay, let's try something else. But women, we get very attached.
Take it really personally, don't we? So with the whole masculine and feminine, I really understand what you're meaning with the shift in the world. And is this like, when we're talking masculine and feminine ways of doing it, is this like, this is what women do and what men do, or are there men and women that cross over the two different types of energies? Can you unpack that a little bit for us, please?
Yeah. First of all, I'll answer the previous part you said about we're going like from the masculine into the feminine, the planetary shift I was saying. That is not actually so. We are going from negative masculine, the masculine dominant, like what we could call patriarchal, hierarchical, very rigid, with feminine suppressed, into more balanced masculine and feminine. We're not stepping into just feminine and masculine just going to cease to exist. No, we definitely need it. It's a balanced thing, but it becomes a positive masculine and a positive feminine that's not suppressed anymore. Anytime that transition happens, it's like a pendulum. Sometimes it swings too far in opposite direction. So we got some in the feminine way too far a little bit. And then it becomes like, oh, just meditate and clients come. No, you do need a strategy. Like you do need to have structures in your business. So it's not just that.
But I like that. I totally get it. And you're right. It's like with everything in the world, there's got to be both, right? The balance. Like a push and a pull. You can't have one without the other. So yeah, I love that. Thank you for clarifying. Exactly. So just like both must happen. Also, the energy is not a physical sex of the body. So people call it masculine and feminine. I end up doing that just because that's common. The way properly to label that would be electric and magnetic. So electric is directional. That's masculine. So if you can imagine like a wire and electricity going through the wire, that's electric. So all the things like strategy, like step-by-step planning, like goal setting, like following through on what you said you're going to do, like, you know, things you kind of need in life and business. That's all masculine side. The feminine side is magnetic. So that means it doesn't have necessarily it has like a focal point, desire, and it attracts to itself. So we can say it's nonlinear. So if the masculine electrical energy has a line, right? Step by step, step 1, step 2, step 3, that process. Feminine has more like 1, 10, 25, 88, and boom, 100, like by magic. So it's a non-linear process of connecting dots in a more alchemical way. That's the quantum creation. So this is the piece that most people don't know how to be in control of or how to use. They just kind of heard of it. But what I do with my clients is we literally utilize that. Not only so, but we apply it onto marketing. So then your marketing obviously has some linear component as well because language is linear. But we utilize quantum marketing, this non-linear pieces as to which points to kind of hit in the quantum field to then pull towards us the right energies and opportunities and people. So kind of like, how can you write something? How can you say something in your presentation that it compels people to come to you and say, oh my God, you're so interesting. Wow, I really like what you're saying. Wow, I think you're a coach for me. I want to work with you. This is literally what my clients are saying. They're like, wow, Eugenia, I couldn't believe it. I did this. I talked to this person and she's just like, okay, I don't even need to know more. Just tell me how much and how do I sign up? And then they tried like many, many ways before and it was hard. And this is not. The reason for that is because when you create the proper energy vortex, and yes, you do have proper structures. So the electric masculine got to be there, but you weave all these non-linear things properly, not just by like silly affirmations or vision boards or whatever. I mean, this is all great, but that's like not what I teach. I teach like PhD level of actually doing it. So when you bring that in and you apply it onto the words you're using, onto your body. So let's say if you're making a presentation on video and you're in your body with a certain energy, like right now I'm speaking to you and I am embodying certainty, I'm embodying abundance codes, and whoever is watching me, they get to have that point of reference. That's part of service. They might never sign up with me, but they just got to feel something that otherwise they could not have, because of that thing that I bring. So each of us brings something unique. And when we fully know like how to activate that, know certain words that if we mention them in how we explain things, that creates this subconscious weave of a map for a listener that then the listener wants to say, okay, I want this. Like, just like right now, you're it. You're the energy point I was looking for. And that's the nonlinear quantum. So that is what people would call the feminine side versus the masculine. And of course, every single human being has both polarities. I mean, I've never met somebody just one side. Men have
feminine energy as well. Women have masculine energy as well. I'm actually more electric than magnetic myself. So I find that a lot of the leaders, because we kind of go-getters, we have that natural, energy to move forward. We tend to have a lot of the electric charge. So even if we're in a female bodies, and it's okay, just it's what it is. But how do you use that in a way that is appropriate to your unique soul design? Because let's say somebody who's naturally very magnetic, she's very feminine, but she was in a family where she was told that that's like, you're stupid, you're weak, you don't know what you're talking about. Why can't you never say things in a linear way? I have no idea what you're saying. So then she was kind of programmed with, okay, I better like push and force and make it and show up. And she would then maybe overcompensate and kind of activate that masculine side, but it's not normal for her. It's not actually part of her design. She just learned how to do it. So then fast forward, let's say 35 years or something. So now this grown-up woman is trying to run her business, trying to do it in a male way and wondering why is nothing working. And it's like, because you cannot create energy vortex from the incorrect polarity. It's not in you. You got to create it from your natural polarity, which means we got to clean up some of these overlays that you got conditioned with to uncover the real you. And then from that place, now you go talk. Now you do all the same thing maybe you were even doing, but the effect is way better and almost instant.
Wow. There is so much in that I'm like, my brain is exploding. But how do you know, like, would someone know intrinsically whether they are more electric or magnetic? Like, if I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, oh, well, am I? Which one am I? I've got things that I would think, yes, I'm quite logical and linear and I can speak to points, but then I'm very much a wave person. Like I like to go with the flow. I kind of prefer to have no rules. And I don't want a structure. I want to do it the way that it feels right to me. Is that just me being creative or is that the magnetic?
Well, everybody's different. And I mean, it's kind of hard to diagnose somebody just from these things you're saying. But let's just say very rare you meet somebody who's even 80-20. Most people range will be like 60-40. Nobody's really 50-50, but we're kind of close. So when you get to anything more than that, like I'm actually close to 80-20 and I can shift to 70-30, that is already an unusual. And most leaders have that a little bit push kind of to the edge. But if somebody's 90-10, they're using something too much. So that's not a normal setup. So usually how would you know to answer that question? I would go back to where do you get pleasure, or if the word pleasure doesn't work, joy, or if the joy doesn't work, excitement, or relax, or happy, or whatever your version of this yummy thing that your body feels. And go back earlier in life. Like I always liked puzzles. I always like to build things. I always like to see patterns and figure things out. I learned to read and I immediately started put together different things with words. So that's more electrical energy. Now, electrical can totally be creative completely, but notice even the way you were talking about, but I like to do things my way and whatever, that rebellion thing, like, don't tell me the rules, I'm going to do my own rules. That's actually not magnetic. That's still electric. That's still masculine.
As you're talking, I'm thinking, I like to build things as well when I was a kid.
Exactly. Right. So that's kind of like one of the, I mean, really basic here, but that's kind of how you can know. And on the other side, on the feminine, how we can say is if somebody is a dreamer, fantasizer, they find themselves lost and then people like shake them out of it and they're like, oh, like they were somewhere else. And they love to socialize and kind of hang out with people and small talk and just chatting and just being in this flow. And at the same time, kind of like if you ask them to describe something, they have a trouble putting things in order. If they tell you something, they would do it, I call it the circular way, kind of like they talk and talk and talk and talk, and eventually the entire circle gets filled up and somewhere they will hit the point. But you have to listen for the entire thing of their experience to get to, that's what she wanted to say. When somebody like me, you ask me and I will tell you exactly the point. So that's electric. And it's not that one is better than another. Both are absolutely required in this world, but they function very different. Usually children who are magnetic, they find themselves feeling like they're being told by society, like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you follow through? Why can't you, show up on time? Why can't you do because they kind of in their own dreamy world, and they get fascinated with a leaf or something, and then the bus is leaving, and it's like, oh, I missed the bus because this leaf was so pretty. Like, that's much more in the other side, that's non-linear. And without that, we cannot have innovation. So it definitely is very much needed. But our culture has been based for a long time on the electric side and the masculine. So because of that, it's been put on a pedestal, like that's the way to be, when like that's efficient and this is proactive and this is how you get things done. And this is why we have all those performance coaches, that help you to like get on it and do it and go and do it, when actually very, very rare when the soul design has in it, go and get it to happen. Most soul designs are not. Most are about, doesn't matter if you're electric or magnetic, most are about either internal inspiration that one must follow, or external something they have to respond to in order to activate, or it's a social thing when they have to be in a community of certain type, like the energy of the community must activate them, and then they do something in the service of community, and so on. So there's very, very rare when somebody literally has that design of just go make it happen. And usually those people are innovators that are meant to bring the idea. And even then, if that idea cannot be accepted by their community, that's kind of useless. So they still have to listen to community, even if they go try to make it happen. And those people usually also don't have the energy to implement. Somebody else has to come in and implement. So this is where we get into the complexity of how soul design shows up in one's life. But it's a lot of it is linked to how you are utilizing your energy, and if you're true to who you actually are instead of whatever you think you should be.
Fascinating. And I hear some similarities between what you're talking about with soul design and what I know, which is, again, still quite limited. I've been learning as much as I can, but about human design and how that works. So, when you're aligned with your design, with human design, how things will work and flow a lot better. And when you're not in alignment, you might be having that frustration feeling and it being hard. Is there a similarity? Do you use parts of human design? Is it a similar thing or something quite different?
Well, yeah, no, that's a very good question, actually, because I think that there are a lot of systems, like a lot of tests, like I use some archetypal tests, like an assessment that you can do. And there's all sorts of different assessments that exist. For example, Kabbalah is one of the assessments, right? The tarot cards is another, the astrology altogether with all the planets and everything. Human design is another, I Ching is another, and so on. There are many, 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 many different systems, including like archetypal systems, as I said. So the way that I find that works is that in the lower level, the system can only go so far. It's kind of like, let's say somebody who can read a chart in astrology or in human design, or can read your chakras, let's say, that's like a technician, like they good at reading what is. That does not necessarily tell you anything on a bigger scale to the extent that we're talking about, but it does give you some basic understanding. But unfortunately, a lot of people get caught in this kind of like in the same way how like with the horoscope, right? Like you read it and it's like, oh, my sign's supposed to feel this week and whatever. We all know it's a little BS, right? Because we don't really feel like that. Come on. So that's because each person is very unique and we have very different influences. So the same thing would be when you take any of these systems and somebody just kind of like reads the basics of it. It's good to study it, but it's to the limited capacity will just describe a template, not necessarily uniquely you, right? Like, oh, somebody with, I don't know, an open center in human design, that thing means that. Yeah, but in your whole chart, it might mean something completely different. But according to, let's say, the software, it would say that. So the way I do it is because I have, as I said, the clairvoyant ability. So I look at the person, I see all their sort of download at once as to who they are, what they meant to do. Then I utilize other systems. So I utilize some of the human design, some of the Kabbalah, I utilize some of the crystalline energies. I utilize everything with the chakras that I know of and I've studied. I utilize some of their past life karmic overlays as to what gifts they're bringing through their lives. I see past lives like movies. So I can kind of get imprints like, oh, that was a powerful lifetime. Can we integrate that here? Oh, this was a difficult lifetime, but it seems to echo here. So that's important. So I weave this totality of a picture, utilizing all the pieces. And yes, human design is a great piece, but unless you really kind of know what you're talking about is going to just be as limited as somebody saying like, oh, second chakra should be orange. And it's like, well, yeah, in a book, but in reality, there's like all sorts of variations of what that means and how it is. And maybe it shouldn't be if, let's say, somebody's in grief. So there's all sorts of different understandings that you gain when you go into layers and layers and layers of that. So I think that this is a very good beginning for people to try to understand themselves through any kind of a test. Like I'm one of those people, if I see a personality test or whatever, I always do it just because I'm curious to see what will pop up, because I like patterns. But that's not going to tell you the depths of like what we're talking about, especially with not just life purpose in a real sense, not kind of like, oh, I'm here to be a teacher. Like, okay, great. Now what? But as in, oh, you're here to bring this specific frequency that is linked to this specific thing about this specific thing with these specific people. And this is how you can generate income doing it with this specific way. Now that actually lays it out. But a lot of this is encoded in all those systems if the systems are well done. Like even chakra system. If somebody is, let's say, clairvoyant and they really can read somebody's chakra, and they not just doing it from like, oh, basic color, but they can do it with depths and overlays and, connections and chords and all of that, they can tell you a lot of the things I'm saying. Same thing if somebody can read human design and they have like a PhD level in being able to do that, kind of like me, then yeah, you get a lot of data out of that. Same thing with astrological chart. I'm not that strong in astrology, but I know some people who are like awesome at that, and they get similar components. But you have to be really at the level where you combine so many things, including theosophy and understanding of the larger patterns and stuff. Then yes, you can deliver an answer. But at that point, it's an art instead of being a technician.
Oh, my goodness. I totally understand what you mean. And I think, there's so many layers, isn't there? I think the more that you explore it, the more layers you can unravel, unwrap, go deeper. And then what I love what you're saying is when you can kind of look at them all and then take those pieces and make the patterns and see what's connecting and what feels right to you, and probably try that on, because like you say, we're all individuals. We're not a cookie cutter. So if you do a test and there's 4 types and they say everyone fits into the 4 types, wow, there's going to be a lot of variation in each type, because if all humans fit into one of 4, and you know how different we all are, then we're not all going to be the same. Like, it's just helping to give you some clues or something to explore a bit deeper. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like that you've said that. So when we were talking, I'm just going to bring the thread, I guess, back to the masculine business strategy and the feminine, quantum energetics. So once we kind of are exploring that or understanding a bit more about ourselves, what is that practical bit of applying it? What does that mean for us when, how can we take some of that knowledge and then actually apply it?
So I would simplify this. I could answer this in a very complex way that will take an hour.
So, I'm giving you a very big question.
Exactly.
Really simple. Sorry.
So to kind of like shrink it into something that's digestible, let's put it into 4. Let's do 4 parts. So part number 1 would be to unlock the soul design, to understand your expertise, understand your gifts, understand your profit potential. Part 2, apply that onto who is this for. So I know everybody speaks of niching, like too niche, to not too niche, whatever. I kind of don't have an opinion on that. I think niching is better personally, but this is kind of like a next level of that. So instead of thinking, what would work in a marketplace? What can I sell? Like the typical thing. Instead, from this soul expertise, soul design, who is the human being group that energetically needs the thing you brought? So now we're looping it in a different level. It's the energy loop, like an infinity thing, between your incredible gift, something you're resonating, and let's say you clean yourself up so you really resonate, that you really broadcast that energy. Who needs that energy? Because some people might need like mechanical thing that you can do, but they don't need your energy. And we want somebody who doesn't just want the thing you can do, like the skill you have, but also who wants that specific energy. So that would be like the second part, the practical part you're asking. So there. Now we know who we're going to be delivering this gift to. Not everybody, but just that type of person or that group of people. Great. The next thing is methodology. So this would be to put into some sort of a linear order the non-linear thing that we each bring. Because everybody brings this something, right? Like there's a lot of amazingness to us, right? We're all really a lot of awesomeness put together. But when we start to kind of open it up, people tend to fixate on the thing, like a skill, like, oh, I can do this. And it's like, yeah, but see that other 99% you also do, but you're not getting paid for. So we want to take all of that and clearly define it in a linear way. So I call it methodology. Yeah. That is, I think, a super important piece. It's not just like, well, we start by, doing this and then we do this. Like, of course, it has the system kind of linear, but it has the higher components because we want to weave that energetics into it. Now that we have that, that's a part 3, right? So expertise and soul design, who is this for? Kind of a niche thing, into how we do this. That's the methodology. And now the next practical piece is how do we translate all that non-linear thing into a linear language in a way that it compels people to come to us. This is where a lot of the times we have to expand our wealth container to create the vortex that then will bring people to us that's matching the words we're using. So this is totally electromagnetic because you have to have the words. Words are linear language. I mean, if you speak non-linearly, nobody is going to get you. So you do have to speak in a linear way, not in gibberish. And I think a lot of times people don't actually know how to do that because they feel what they do is big. So like, oh, I help women feel confident and, really grounded in, how amazing they can have their life or live their best life. And it's like, okay, who knows what that means? So we then translate the methodology into, okay, what is it that you actually need to say for them to want to come into your vortex? So once you have those 4 parts, that's the really kind of esoteric, but also practical. Like you literally write it out, you really get it, you practice it in your body. I make my clients literally practice, like say it on video, even if you don't post it, say it for yourself, say it enough times, look at yourself on video. Do you feel this thing that you're trying to kind of resonate? If not, let's see what's in the way, what's not landing. Oh, this pops up, let's clean it up. This pops up, let's move it out of the way. Now try again. So you're really learning to embody it, that you're not memorizing some template. And I mean, I do provide some structure if somebody needs it, but I think a lot of times is not that. It's more like if you know it by heart, like you can wake me up in the middle of the night when I'm asleep and I can still have this conversation with you because I know this in my being. Totally. And that's kind of what I teach my clients is to get to the place where you're not memorizing, you're not trying to say it in a clever way, and you're not saying it in such a circular language that nobody can get, but you know exactly the things to say and how to do it. So that's the practical piece. But into that practical piece, all this nonlinear quantum part is woven in on every of those 4 steps.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I know that, we work in a similar space. And I think that when you're trying to say something and it's from your head, so you're thinking about it and thinking about what you're saying, and am I saying the right words, and, or trying to memorize it or follow a template, you're up here and what you're saying isn't really connecting. Like it's not coming through your voice. And just as you were talking, it's like, that's the simple difference is when you're speaking from the heart, when it's actually coming out and you're embodying it, it's coming through your voice from the body, which is completely different and natural. Right. Whereas when it's in the head, it just doesn't land as well because it feels a little bit more awkward, like you're actually thinking about it as you're saying it. And I catch myself doing it all the time, like I just was, thinking about what I'm saying. Am I saying the right words? Is this right? And as you're saying them, you've got all this little background chatter going on that's actually distracting you from what you're trying to say. But when you're talking to the point that so well that you're just embodying it, it just rolls out, right? And
that's actually the energetics part of it. Like when somebody's speaking from their head, they might be saying something, but energetically it goes on out of their head, maybe half a foot to about a foot. So nobody is going to get that as any energy imprint because like we have our fields are 6 feet in diameter, so you're not even getting out of your field. You're literally in your head at that point. But when somebody's speaking, depending on their design, some people meant to speak from the heart, some meant to speak from their hips. Some meant to speak from the back of their heart. Some meant to speak from their tail, like the back of the butt, sort of like as if you had a third leg downwards. So we all have different designs, and where that assemblage point is for the person sound to come through, if they ground there and then from there they speak, whoa, now it creates the vortex. And energetically, it literally looks like a vortex. So now somebody's listening, they're getting this pull towards like, oh, what is she saying? What is that? Wow, that's, I never thought about that. Versus I don't even like, they doesn't even resonate.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. That's incredible. I feel like there's so much there we could unpack, so many different levels. I'm not even sure where we should go from here. Do you think that there's anything that you would like to add to this conversation that would be good at this point without exploding anybody's brain too much?
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that I can bring here that I think would be a nice bridge point for us as far as from the business standpoint and the consciousness standpoint is that a lot of times people think of a business as more in a form of, I want to serve, I want to do what I love, and I also want to get paid. And I always bring the third component as to, and where is there space for you? And some people actually in their soul design, they require a huge amount of space. Some people require less space, but everybody requires some space. And most of the time when somebody gets to whatever their original version of successful was, they get booked, which is what they wanted. But now they have no space, which is when the burnout happens and then the self-sabotage. So one of the things that I've always recommended to people is we want to look at your soul design, look how much space you require, and then whatever business strategy we're going to construct, or if you already have one, what we need to modify in it, that space is absolutely respected and non-negotiable. That means one's business might shift into maybe something being evergreen and her energy going only into some other parts live. Maybe she goes live full force because she naturally is one of those presenter types, but she does it, let's say, once a month. Maybe there's something that the person needs to do that's ongoing. Like I have some clients for whom engagement must be ongoing in order for them to feel stable. If it's staccato, they start to feel very nervous and rattled. So that person's space is actually more like I do something every day and then I have part of the day off, versus like my design is I'm a batcher. I do something crazy for like 12 hours for 2 days in a row and then I need 3 days off. So that's like my whole life, and my business is arranged around that to accommodate so that I never have to, let's say, work a little bit every day, because that would kill me. Versus somebody else, if they try to do what I'm doing, that would totally burn them out. So we always look as to how does space fit into what you're doing. And that a lot of times is about adjusting the business strategy and adding a higher ticket items to whatever the business is. So depending on the level of business, if somebody is already like at 6 figures and multiple 6 figures, they probably already have plenty of lower level things that just kind of pre-recorded or exists already, or support coaches. That's great. Great. Now let's withdraw you from a lot of that and put you to the top where you actually get to do your brilliant work. If somebody is not at that level, and let's say they're 30,000 or 40,000 and they're just trying to get to that 100,000 mark, same thing. Do you think you're going to get there faster by wasting your energy on a lot of this lower level effort, or by putting yourself at the higher place? So we build the higher ticket component. Now, higher ticket doesn't just mean more money, which I know a lot of times people think like, oh, that's more money. Yes, it's at least 5,000 per offer, ideally 10. Most of my clients, like even if they started at doing $100 sessions, then they sell like $7,000 offer and they're like, I can't believe how easy this was. That's because we matched it to the energetics. And now instead of having 20 clients, she can have one.
Yeah.
That created a lot of more space, and she gets to do the work at certain level. So a lot of the work that I do is kind of like bringing that higher component. I call it premium because it's a premium energy, not just premium money. So you then work with the premium level client. That's to me is the bigger thing as far as the energy resonance. Instead of somebody who's a little crunchy, who's not following instructions, who maybe pays and sometimes doesn't pay, maybe complains. All these things we kind of have to do at the beginning to figure out what works for us. That's normal. But when you actually kind of shown yourself, okay, I know what I'm doing and I'm really good at it, this is where it's time to shift into the energetics of higher level of self-honor, where you are able to serve at a higher level to the people who are premium type of people who want that type of service, which of course will have a higher price tag naturally. But now you're at the place where it feels, of course, it's totally makes sense. So a lot of times I find that people have a difficulty moving from that to the higher, because to them it's like, well, but I need steps. I need to have like tons of clients on this level. Then I can create a little group program. Then I can do like live things. And then maybe I can have, I don't know, $7,000 program. And it's like, no, what you need is the proper energetics. And I'm all about integrity. Like, I really don't like the idea when people just slap a zero on their $500 offer. And now it's like $5,000 offer. Like, no, we don't do that. So what I'm talking about is to actually upgrade your energetics to what you meant to be. And whatever that level is, let's pick the lowest of that, which would be usually at least 5,000, sometimes it's 6 or 7. And that's where we want you to start broadcasting from. Now, people who are interested in that are very different people. And this is the thing that I think a lot of times people don't understand, is that marketing, words, and energy to the people at the premium level is completely different than to the people who are going to buy, let's say, $20 offer or $200 session or $500 course. And when somebody tries to raise the fee, but markets in the same way how they were for, let's say, their $200 session, it doesn't work. And then they start, you know, internally kind of twisting on themselves, like, oh, it's my fault. What's wrong? I must not be good enough. And it's like, no, it has nothing to do with it. It has to do with how are you talking about it? Like, what are you actually bringing through? And if the energy of that is correct, you don't need all these in-between steps. I mean, I always say we are the work, not the business. We are. So as long as you upgrade you and then create proper structures for the business, you can just quantum leap. Again, the quantum here, because quantum leaping is non-linear, right? So instead of doing 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, you just go 110. There I am. So that's also what I teach my clients to do.
Yeah, I love that. And, you know, I see so often when they're in the place of treating themselves like a commodity, taking those clients at that low level, it's often really, they're not very well aligned. They're kind of just out there going, hey, I've got this thing, someone come and buy it. I'm trying to find a buyer. It's like, well, you don't just want any buyer, you know, just think about it. You know, they're not all going to be right for you. They're going to be those clunky ones, a bit hard to work with. But for someone else, they might be the perfect client. It just means that if it's not feeling good, like if that relationship isn't really positive, then you're not well aligned and you haven't maybe figured out your alignment, which, I talk about alignment and you're talking about the energy, the energetic match. And I think that we're coming at it the same thing. I completely agree. And it is exactly like once you get that right alignment, you know, it's not about you have to step incrementally up. It's just you find that place where, well, this is actually what I want to do and the value of what I bring. And then we just, you know, align your pricing and your positioning to it, which attracts the right people, right? Because
exactly. And this is where it's more internal first. So then there's kindness, that it doesn't feel like, oh my God, super scary thing, jumping off the cliff here, gonna do something. And at the same time, I don't feel I can really back it up. And like, oh my God, can I sell it for this? And will they, like, all this junk that happens in one's mind? That only happens when you're not owning, when you have not claimed the thing you brought. When you have claimed it and you're resonating it, and you train yourself to find that energy, know what it feels like, broadcast that, and kind of be like, oh, okay, I'm in it. I get this. Okay, now you can go and create your promotional materials or whatever. So that's kind of the process. And one of the things that I can offer your audience is, as a gift, I have a pre-recorded webinar that they can go and watch that literally explains a lot of these pieces, like we were talking about the expertise and who is this for and how to kind of put it together into something. So this will explain to you overall, like, what is it that we're talking about here with the energetics, and more details. So that is soulstrategywebinar.com. So if you type that in, you will end up right there on the page. You can watch it anytime, but that will give you a lot of understanding of all the pieces I'm talking about here.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much for letting us know about that. I will link it up in the show notes as well, so you can just dive in there and go across to it. I think there's just been so much value in what you've provided with us today. I can see that we've only scratched the surface and there's so much more within that. So I really appreciate your time, Eugenia. Thank you for joining me today, and thank you for this conversation. I've really loved it. There's just been, so much in there, and I love the energy that you bring to what you do. I can see that you're so passionate and knowledgeable about it as well.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And I hope that whatever I said would be very beneficial, because one thing I always like to leave the people with is 100% possible, 100% of the time. But if within that 100%, you know your path, you know your soul design and your direction to bring wealth through, how much easier is that?
Yes. Oh, yeah. We're all about making it easier.
Exactly.
Making it hard. Totally. And so where do you hang out? Do you have a social platform that you love to be on? Yeah.
Yeah, I usually am on the Facebook, so you can find me on the Facebook. It's, Eugenia Oganova, so it's my name. And I have a group, High Ticket Energetics for Spiritual Coaches. So I post lots of videos in there and explain things. I have a YouTube channel, and my website is transcensiongate.com. So that has so much free material in there. You can spend hours just reading and learning. And the YouTube channel has so many videos, which is Eugenia Oganova Wealth Energetics. So either of those places, you can message me, you can connect. If you watch the webinar, you will be asked to see if you want to communicate with me. I would love to hear from you. And if you know you're right at that place where you're like, okay, I think I really want to know this because I'm ready for that next level, would love to see if there's something I can help you with.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I will link up those social platforms as well in the show notes. So just to make it easy for you to get across to them. And please go and connect with Eugenia, learn more about it, learn more about yourself. I think this is what it's all about. What's so exciting is this self-discovery journey that we can go on and really find that right groove that is the right groove for us, our own place, our own space, and the way that you can draw what you want for your life to you. So thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.
Do you know something? There are so many people that are overcomplicating their marketing, which means that they're running on the marketing treadmill, pumping out so much content, but still not yielding those results, meaning there are no clients actually signing up. Like, what use is an audience if they're not an audience of buyers? What use is it creating great content to share if the people who are reading it have no desire to take that next step to actually working with you? Well, if any of those things are happening for you right now, then it's highly likely that you're simply missing a key in your marketing strategy. And those keys are really simple. There are just 5 of them. And it's about how you align them, put them together. That is the simplicity that makes everything work, just like clockwork, so that you have a consistent stream of what you would consider your dream clients, literally turning up in your inbox, ready to have a conversation, ready to sign up with you without you going out there to find them. So let's put an end to cold outreach. Let's put an end to searching for clients in Facebook groups. Let's put an end to just waiting around and relying on referrals to come through from other people. Because when you have that consistent stream of clients, then you're in the place of being able to choose. You've got an abundance of opportunity out there. And all we need to do is turn on the tap for your clients to find you. So I've created a brand new training, and it's called 5 Keys to Clients on Tap. So you can guess what it's about, can't you? Well, this 1-hour short training takes you through those 5 critical keys that you need to have in your business so that you do have clients on tap, and not just any old client, the ones that you most want to be working with, that are going to make you profitable, that are going to fulfill you, are going to make you feel like jumping out of bed every morning because you love your business so much. So you want in? All you need to do is head to jessicaosborne.com/TMF for the magnetic formula. So TMF, and get yourself into the next session that's running for this training. You honestly will not regret it. It is going to change your business, your life, if you've been experiencing any of those problems I mentioned before. Look forward to seeing you in there, and let's do this.